on Terumot, Perek Aleph, Mishnah, fifth Mishnah in the first chapter of Terumot. Okay, in order to understand this Mishnah, we're going to skip to the third line of the Mishnah, and based on that, much of the rest of the Mishnah will be understood. There's a rule that says the following: Ein tormin, you're not allowed to take Terumah min hachayav ala Petur v'lo min Petur ala chayav. So let's say, for example, I have 2 bunches of grapes. We're recording? Yes, we are. I have 2 bunches of grapes. I have a grape here and a grape there. Let me just get rid of the wine from last Mishnah. Okay, I've got 2 bunches of grapes. Now what I want to do is, I want to take Terumah from one to the other. Okay, I want to take Terumah from one of them onto the other. Okay, or let's say, for example, what I want to do is I want to take Terumah, right, from one of those, okay, for the other. So for example, if I'm going to take Terumah, and then I'm going to take some of those Terumah, okay, I'm going to take some of those grapes, just some small amount of them, and I'm going to take it from both. Okay, I'm going to take it from this, I'm going to take it from the left grapes for the right grapes and the left grapes. Okay, so if this is Chayav in Terumah for whatever reason, and this is Petur for Terumah for whatever reason, I cannot take from a Chayav on the Petur or the other way around. I can't take from the Petur on the Chiyyuv. And both of those grapes, both groups have to be Chayav Terumah in order for me to take from one for the other. And it makes sense. I mean, I understand why I want to do that. I don't take grapes. I don't take Terumah from every bushel of grapes. I've got a bunch of bushels. I put them all together, and I take from one of them. That's how you take Terumah. But the Mishnah is telling us, I'm not allowed to take, if I have, one of them is Petur and one of them is Chiyyuv, I can't take from the Chiyyuv on the Petur or the Petur on the Chiyyuv, as we'll see. Says the Mishnah. Ein tormin min haleket, min hashikha, min hapeya, umin hahefker. Let's go one or the other. Wait, let's read it all. You can't take Terumah from leket, shikha, and peya. Leket and shikha and peya are, leket is that which you collected off the ground, shikha is that which the field owner forgot, peya is the corner, and as we know, all those are matnot aniyim. Min hahefker, I take from hefker. Okay, so let's say I have leket, shikha, I have grain that I collected in leket. And I also have other grain. I'm a poor person, but I also grew my own grain, or somebody else gave me grain. That's chayav that I have to take off Terumot and Maser. So I say, you know what, I'll take off from the leket, and then that will count and I'll take off the proper amount for whatever I have in my house as well. You can't do that. Same is true as shikha, same as peah, same if I found, grain in hefker. Hefker, it's ownerless. Why? Okay, I can't do this. One second, I'll explain in a second. V'lo mi ma'aser rishon shenit la trumato. Let's say I mean ma'aser rishon, that Trumat Maser was taken from it. And the example that the Bartanura gives and the Mefarshim give is, let's say it's called Higdima B'Shibolim. The Levi came before I could take off Truma. I have my pile of grain when it's in stalks, but I haven't collected it all together. And the Levi comes and says, "I'm going to take my Maser now. Is that okay? Yeah, whatever. I don't care." Okay. That produce, he has to give Maser Rishon. Once he gives Trumato, he gave up his Truma, but it was never Chayav in Truma Gedola. Since he took his portion before it came to the Chiyyuv, before you did Miruach HaKri. Miruach HaKri, you smeared, the Kri is this big pile, took all the grain, stuck it in a pile, and then smeared it down. That's called Miruach HaKri. So if the Levi took his portion before it came to Miruach HaKri, then it was never Chayav in Truma. So that's not Chayav. Similarly, V'lo ma'aser sheni b'hegdish sheniftu. Let's say I have ma'aser sheni. So ma'aser sheni, right, I take it to Yerushalayim, and I can eat it. But if I can't take it to Yerushalayim, I have these oranges or what have you, and I can't take them all to Yerushalayim, so then I'm allowed to redeem them, to designate the hegdish, the kedusha, on money, and take that money and spend it in Yerushalayim. But those fruits themselves were redeemed, or hegdish, for example. I have a bunch of oranges, and I say, I'm going to give them to the Beit HaMikdash. Okay, but then I redeem that for money, and I give the money to the Beit HaMikdash. Nonetheless, those fruits were never considered chayav in Terumot, because it was hegdish. Similarly, ma'aser sheni. Ma'aser sheni, you take it to Yerushalayim. It's not chayav in Terumot, even though it was redeemed. Why? Because all of these things are Peturim. Leket, shikha, and peah, and hefker are Petur. Ma'aser rishon shenit la Trumato. Ma'aser rishon nit la Trumato here means it had its Trumat Ma'aser taken off. It was never chayav in Truma Gedola. Same is true of Maser Sheni and Hegdish. Therefore, those are v'lo mina Chiyyuv ala Petur, v'lo mina Petur ala Chiyyuv. Those are examples of Chiyyuv on Petur and Petur on Chiyyuv. And the other classic examples are mina Petur ala Chiyyuv, for example, Let's say the fruits, I harvested them before they had grown a third. They are Peturin mina hamasrot, but I want to take them on Perot Shiviu Shlish. Shem chayavin mima asrot. Okay, etc., etc. So therefore, those are all examples where I cannot take truma from one on the other. We actually, if you've been with us all this time, or you've learned Masechet Demai at all, ever, there's many examples of Demai where we're concerned about Chiyyuv al Petur or Petur al Chiyyuv in Safek Hafrashot. You can look it up in Masechet Demai. Similarly, V'lo min hatalush al mechubar. Let's say I have grain that's already been cut, but I have grain that hasn't been yet cut. V'lo min ha-mechubar al talush. Nor can I take grain. I can take truma from grain that's mechubar al talush. I'm saying, okay, that field that's designated, those 3 square meters are now truma. I can't do that. And I also, since I can't do that, it has no bearing on the talush. I have my grain in my storehouse. It still has to have hafrashot trumot. V'lo min chadash al hayashan. V'lo min hayashan al chadash. I can't do from this year on last year, nor can I take off truma from last year on this year. Similarly, v'lo mi perot ha'aretz al perot chutz la'aretz. V'lo mi perot chutz la'aretz, perot chutz la'aretz al perot ha'aretz. I can't take off truma of perot ha'aretz on the fruit of chutz la'aretz. So, for example, there are some areas that are adjacent, that we've learned, adjacent to Eretz Yisrael, that are chayav in truma b'durabanan. Okay, either the Nevi'im exact made a takana or the Chachamim made a takana. Nonetheless, you can't take truma from those on the fruits from actually Eretz Yisrael proper and vice versa. Okay, v'im tarmu, and in each of these cases, im tarmu, if you took off truma, ein truma tam truma. Okay, in those cases, then the truma is not truma, ein truma tam truma. It isn't an effective designation of truma. And let's say if I did for min haptur ala chiyuv. If I take off truma from the Petur on the Chiyyuv, right? I took off grapes that are Petur. I took off from grapes that are Hefker on Chiyyuv. Let's say, for example, I took grapes. This is Hefker grapes, and I took from grapes from Hefker, and I wanted it to count for my Chiyyuv. Says the Mishnah, Ein Trumato Truma, and this is still considered Tevel, and you have to take off Truma once again. We'll stop here. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to contact me at arspolter@gmail.com. Have a great day.